I mean, talking about Nuggets, right? Nuggets were the number one seed in the West, but at the same point in time, they still had a worse record than the next series that we're about to talk to. The two was an eight matchup, the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, this is one of the teams that Raj has been supporting since the bubble again, and this team is back in the Eastern Conference Finals. Last time they were in the Eastern Conference Finals, they were the first seed. This time they're the eighth seed. It's Heat versus Celtics. Guys, what is your opinion on this matchup now? Another bubble matchup. Firstly, the same matchup in the bubble, and then last year again we had the same Eastern Conference Finals between the first and the second seed, right? I think Celtics were the second seed last season too, and they're the second seed again. And Miami obviously dropping off, but I mean, when you have Jimmy G buckets on your team, anything is possible.
I mean, people said that the bubble season was a fluke. I don't think so. What people were talking about, I mean, it was probably the most. I mean, in my opinion, it was probably the most evenly matched season that they had because of they didn't, and no team particularly had a home court advantage at that point of time. That meant all the teams playing without an advantage, all the teams evenly matching up.
I
But
mean,
that's what
you
I
will
feel.
for sure had a home team with a home court advantage. If you know, you know.
Right. I mean, it's a very exciting matchup moving forward. It's 2 versus 8. I mean, we are seeing a 1 versus 7 in the Western Conference, the Eastern Conference. I think so. It's 2 versus 8, and it's going to be exciting because the way that Jimmy Butler has been playing, but he had an injury, is not at the optimum state that he should be. Still beating New York Knicks, moving on to the finals, and Celtics wanting to give away games in the last series against Philly. I think so. It is going to be very exciting to see Heat trying to win it, Boston being a better team trying to lose it. I mean, it will be exciting. So that's what you think.
Um, I hate the Celtics with a passion, but putting my bias aside, even logically, like you pointed out, like I pointed out several times now, the Celtics do not look like a championship team. Like we discussed on the other end,
Oh, they are
both
winning the
Western Conference
championship for
teams.
sure, Rudraj.
Oh, against your Lakers.
Yeah, my
But,
probably. My money is on Celtics.
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Okay, that's one Lakers fan for sure.
Oh, and that too against a Celtics team. Okay, okay.
That too when you're tout
Some
for
people
the
are
most
coming for you.
championships.
Some people
I'd
are
say
coming
that the
for you, Srijan.
Celtics will take away, will be the greatest franchise of all time after the series.
Oof. Okay.
I mean,
You're clearly fishing for those views at this point, buddy.
Right.
But coming back to the Celtics, I feel like they're not a championship team because they have been highly inconsistent like they were last year. And I feel like they've been this like ever since I can remember, ever since the Tatum and that
the LeBron
Brown
seasons.
team up. Yeah, that season where Tatum dunked on LeBron, but he lost Game 7. I think they've been this team who doesn't have an identity, who just doesn't know what they're doing. They have good individual talent. They have great individual talent, and both of their players are sort of inconsistent. Like one quarter they'll be like 6 for 6, 7 for 7, and then to just go completely cold the next. I feel like Philly had the chance to beat them in game 6. They were up and they just sort of let go of the wheel, and Tatum sort of got hot at the end there. And I think if they ended it there, it would have been a better matchup in the finals, according to me. I really hate the Celtics. But other than that, I think other than those two top heavy talents, I don't feel like the Celtics are a good team. Like I said, on the other end, we talked about two really great teams working as as a whole unit, whereas I feel like the Celtics are just pieces of individual talents just pushing their chips to this point. I feel like Miami is a better team. They don't have that individual talent, but I think they're better well knit together. And like I love Miami and I hate Celtics, so I'm kind of biased in this matchup anyways. Uh But I think you are right, Srijan, that the Celtics are more talented for sure. But I think at this point of the season, talent doesn't necessarily win out,
For
because
sure.
we've seen the MVP just get knocked out.
For
Um,
sure.
we've seen plenty of talent just knocked out in this playoffs. We've seen high seeds just go out of the window. We're seeing two bubble teams in conference, I'm sorry, two
Play.
play-in teams in the conference finals for the first time. So talent doesn't necessarily win games at this point. But to your point, Jimmy does have a nagging ankle injury which might play into the series. This is a tough one for me. I don't really know who wins. But I'd really like to pick Miami, given the fact that the Celtics are so inconsistent and they just like to go completely off the rails in the fourth quarter. I feel like Miami pounces on those games. We've seen that over and over in this playoffs run, where they just come back from behind again, even against the Bucks. Two games, even in that closeout game, they came from behind, and I feel like that's when they're at their best. That's when I feel like their team bonding, their team chemistry shows up. Even though they're not the best team, they show up in those big moments. They're gritty. They'll get your rebounds. Like in the previous series, the Knicks were out rebounding the Cavs like crazy, even though they had those twin towers. And Miami out rebounded the Knicks in this series. Uh, from what I know, like, right? How did the Knicks lose that battle? That's the one battle that they should have won, and if they did, I guarantee you it could have went completely uh, to the opposite direction, because the Knicks just were not generating enough good shots, and they weren't getting like the rebounds that they should have. If they got offensive rebounds, they would have gotten easy putbacks, easy offense, and I think that would have flipped the script. But coming back to the Heat, I feel like they're very gritty. They're very together as a team, and I think that is what's gonna knock the Celtics out. And I think they're very clutch. I don't know the exact stats. Like, you guys are more stats oriented. I feel like Miami has won the closest games that they've had this season. I think they are the highest in win percentage in close games.
And
So I feel like Miami takes this.
for sure. And you know what? Whenever I see Miami, Miami can smell blood. I mean, like you talked about, right? They were down from the Bucks by like over 10 points multiple times, and they just came back every time. And they can smell blood when you're trying to, when you think you got the game, it's the fourth quarter, your players are not going, your isolation plays are not working. Miami just goes in. And they, unlike the Celtics, like you can check out the Celtics roster, right? And pound for pound, player to player, they might have the most talented team right now out of the four teams. But the Heat, I mean, they have seven undrafted players in that team, right? They did not play a beautiful game. It's not fade away meetings from Jimmy Butler. I mean, there are a couple of them, right? But they're not amazing plays being run, but they're just there out there. I mean, Caleb Martin can get you 10 rebounds a game easily. Max Strus popping out for a three. Gabe Vincent. These are players who are going to play hard and diving for every ball. I mean, Marcus, they're not like Marcus Smart going for a knee and then attempting to dive. These are players who are actually putting, it sometimes looks like they're putting their life on their line. I mean, they're betting parlays on themselves to get those player props up. And I mean, you can see Jimmy, they were a shot away from Jimmy. And if it was this season, Jimmy, that shot was probably going in. I mean, the kind of season
Oh
Jimmy
yeah,
has had in the playoffs right now, I mean, from three, that would have been an automatic, and they probably would have been to the finals. And who knows what happened in that finals at all? But Miami, he just gives you a lot of confidence to bet on them. There's so many players like pound for pound, nowhere near talented as the Celtics, right? You cannot compare Jason Tatum to a wing like Caleb Martin, or you cannot even compare defensive player of the year Marcus Smart or six man of the year Malcolm Brogdon to probably like a Gabe Vincent or a 35-year-old Kyle Lowry. But what Kyle Lowry does give you
exactly.
is 100%, right? He's going for every steal, he's going for that block, he's trying to give your team, and he's yelling in the court. He's giving you 100% all of the time, right? And even in, like you said, right, Rudran, they haven't had a lot of close games, but whenever I saw that Knicks Heat series, it was always like Miami has the most open 4-point win ever. Like it was a 4-point win, and it never felt like the Knicks ever had control of that game. That's
A
just,
chance.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just going to be. I think the matchup is going to be between Jimmy G buckets and Game 7 Tatum. If it's Game 7 Tatum and he's going for 46 in the first half, then probably, I mean, who's
I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of done with Tatum at this point. I feel like Tatum is super inconsistent.
for
He's very unreliable, especially in like big games, except barring this one game wherein he just purposely defeated like Steph's record for the 50-point game. He just went for the 51. Now
and
I
he was
hate him
playing
even more.
against the
But
biggest chokers. I mean, I don't want to say a lot, but
yeah,
James Harden.
I mean, like you don't need to. You don't need to. Like Embiid has said it himself. It's not a rivalry. They beat us every time, right?
Exactly.
He said that back in 2018, and it's still
It's
true.
still true 5
It's still
years
true.
apart. And that's the thing, right? Heat can, if the Heat think that even if they're down 20, if the Heat think that you're going easy on them, they're going to push up a drive. They're going to have Caleb Martin go for 10 rebounds and go for every putback, every offensive rebound, and they're going to get in, man. And I mean, defensively, however good you might think that Celtics team is, I think the Heat is much better defensively. I think Bam can switch up from 1 to 5 very easily.
Oh, I still remember that
That
Bam block on
Bam
Tatum to win
block.
game one. That
I
was
mean,
just
if you go to the highlights, right? I remember it was overtime, right? And it was like one bucket here, one bucket there, one bucket here. And now Jason Tatum in that pick and roll, I mean, he's going to get that. I was thinking, this is the actual thought that I had, that he's going for that drive, he's going to get the bucket, and we're going to second OT. And Bam was like rejected. What a block. And
Bam was like,
and
hell no.
he got injured for the finals from that block. But what a block that was.
Yeah, exactly. Like that was like one of the best blocks I've seen in a long time. But like, unfortunately, that ended up in an injury. But coming back to this series, I have sort of a spicy take, but not so much. I feel like if the Celtics want to win this series or
They
the
need Jalen
championship,
Brown to step
they
up.
need to change. They need to change their focus from getting Jason Tatum so many shots to making Jalen Brown the focus of their offense. I understand at this point of the season you don't change your offense that much, and I don't think they're going to do that, and that's why I feel like they're going to lose. But I feel like Jalen Brown is a much better first option than Jason Tatum. It's probably not even a spicy take at this point.
I mean, talking about talking about Jimmy Butler, talking about Jason Tatum, talking about uh, Brown. I mean, we also need to talk about the bench production that they have. Duncan Robinson off the bench has been amazing. He's been outscoring. He has a plus 16.4 per 100 possessions in this in this off season. But we also have seen Malcolm performing good as well. I mean, Celtics do have a depth in their team, but what will I think so eventually work out for the Miami Heat would be how their bench performs. I mean, Jimmy Butler could probably take them. I mean, he would be the clutchest player, but he would be only pushing, and I think so that he should always push only in the clutch moments because of this injury that he had, right, which could eventually become worse if he pushes in all games. But we also have to see how when Jimmy is not on the floor, how well is probably Heat performing with the bench production that Celtics have shown this particular season as well.
And more importantly, I think it's going to be a chess match, right? You have like the
Right.
veteran, one of the best coaches in the league right now, Eric Spoelstra, who has been performing. He's been coaching master classes throughout this playoff series, right? Coaching, out coaching
Right.
out coaching Coach Bud by, I mean, he lost his job after this playoff series, man. to like straight up coaching circles around Tom Thibodeau, who is supposed to be, I mean, not even supposed to be, he has one of the best defensive coaching setups, and I think he has the pedigree of being a very good defensive coach, right? And he's going up against a rookie coach in Joe Mazzulla, who has shown a lot of lapses, not taking correct timeouts, not having the
Yeah,
best
he
time.
looks like a deer in headlights.
Exactly.
I think he's not prepared.
He isn't
Yeah.
prepared, and
And like overall, sorry to cut you off. Overall, I just want to add to your point. I feel like Miami has a lot more like experience on their team with Kevin Love, with Kyle Lowry, with champions who've just been there, with Jimmy Butler who knows how to carry, who's been to the finals, who has carried, I think in a better way than Jason Tatum
for
did
sure.
or
I mean,
Jalen
down
Brown
the
has.
stretch, I
Like
am giving the ball to Jimmy Butler 100 times out of 100. In even if Jason Tatum is on my team, right? And what I fear for the Celtics, I mean, I do not fear because I do not want them to win the series, but what I think is going to happen is that Joe Mazzulla just saw that they won 2 matches with the two big man lineup, right? And he's going to go straight back to it. And I think that's going to be a huge problem because there's so many perimeter threats, right? I mean, Sridin brought this up, this beautiful point up, right? That both benches have been performing really well, but the last series, even though with much less scoring matches, the Heat have had like 6 players averaging double digits, while the Celtics have had like 4. And Jason Tatum is chucking up 20 shots a game, right? Jalen Brown is going to take like 15 shots, and then he's going to hesitate to even take that 16 shot. I think that's the biggest problem with Jalen Brown. Um, Sometimes I honestly feel like it's a mental block somewhere because he isn't so he doesn't trust his dribble as much, so he's not going to go into an isolation. He's going to take that. He's going to take that three every time over that screen, and he's never going to look for the best shot. And that's when I kind of give the props to Tatum, where he might drive the ball a little more than Brown, and he might get a couple of free throws. But I mean, Eric Spoelstra, I totally trust Eric Spoelstra to come up with a plan to go against Al Horford, 36-year-old Al Horford. And I think, I mean, we're going to come into the predictions very soon, but I mean, I think what the Heat really need, apart from Jimmy Butler, is Bam to have a really good performance, both defensively and offensively. Because defensively, Bam has been there. I mean, we even tweeted this from our Twitter handle, right? Which if you haven't followed yet, you need to follow average NBA fans on Twitter. But we even tweeted this that when I was watching the start of the next game, I was like, Bam Adebayo is in his defensive back tonight with 3 minutes, and he had like 3 blocks, 2 steals, and he is just not letting the Knicks get any baskets, and that's when they went out 3-1 to the Knicks at home. And that's what I think is going to be there throughout the series. But what I need from Bam is over 20 points and him to look for the basket for himself aggressively down the stretch. Because that's something that, just like Jalen Brown, he's hesitant. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to go into the restricted area. He doesn't want to get those layups. He wants to take that midi. And I want him to go down. I want him to take advantage of, even if it's a 36-year-old Al Horford who has been a Joel Embiid stopper. I want him to dunk that ball on that old man.
Adding to your point, I feel like the Celtics are the least like team at this point. I feel like the rest of the 3 teams are very gelled as a team. They're all the players know their role on their team. They're very everybody knows their role and everybody's playing their role. But on the Celtics, like I said, they're very unsure about each other's roles. They don't know who the centerpiece should be, and it's just the individual talent showing through till now. And I feel like Miami's grittiness and with Eric Spoelstra, with Jimmy Butler, like I said, Kyle Lowry makes winning plays, man. Kevin Love makes winning plays. It might not show up in like the stats, it might not show up that big as a superstar, but Lowry and Love both are one of the best guys you want to take charges. Lowry is sneakily a good defender. He can make a ton of steals. He can have a really good game defensively. And coming back to your point about Bam, I feel like he was there even defensively, like we discussed in that 2020 season. I think where they lacked was his offense. They needed his offense, and he's looked like a different player this playoff. I feel like he has been more aggressive offensively, and which has carried them through. They've kind of needed his offensive output at times, and I feel like you've hit the right point, and I feel like they need him to be there offensively more than defensively, because I feel like we kind of know that he's going to be there defensively. It's his offense that we don't trust, and I feel like if his offense shows out, I think it'll be easy money for the Miami Heat.
That's been a problem, Rudraj, to be very honest. He's been very good defensively throughout the postseason, but offensively, he's not shown up that much. I mean, given his stature, the kind of player that he is, I think so he will take on that responsibility. He should take on that responsibility, and I think so he will be able to. But in my opinion, I think so the Boston team has taken. I mean, I understand that they don't have that cohesiveness in the team. Whereas Miami Heat is a bit traditional in the type of defensive plays that they run or the offensive plays that they run. They go really by the thing that they have decided in the room. They also make changes, although they make changes. They're not like Milwaukee Bucks. They're different than Milwaukee Bucks, but they're very they're very kind of orthodox into what they've
why the
planned they
drive
want
by,
to do.
my friend?
Uh-huh. It's just for the views. But what I'm trying to say is that it will take time for it will take a good performance from Bam and Jimmy to take them home. I think so. It will not
For
be an
sure,
easy
yeah.
run. Although they have been gritty, they have won two elimination games back to back. I think so, but it would be extremely hard. It would be Boston to give up, give games up to for Miami Heat to win because of the injury as well. But let's
Really?
quickly talking about that. Let's quickly move on to predictions. What do you think? Who's going to be the best player of the series, biggest buster of the series, surprising player of the season? Who's going to take this game? One.
For me, the best player of the series would for the game. Oof. Maybe Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has to be the best player of the game. Biggest bust, I'm going with Mr. Jason Tatum because he's had a good game the last game, so I expect him to have a shit game the next game. Most surprising player, if anybody hasn't been watching Miami games, probably Kevin Love. I don't know because I feel like he sneakily played like really good defensively as well for them, which you don't get to see as often. If you don't watch the games, you don't know he's been playing good defense for them. He even played like a backup center for them, and like he's been playing above what they kind of needed him for. He's outplayed what they needed him to do, and I feel like he's gonna be surprising to some players. Um, Big game winner. I'm going with Miami just because of my bias, I guess. I don't know. At this point, it's hard to tell. Like, but once I watch game one, I'll know much better about how the series is going to progress. But I'm just taking Miami off the bat, I guess.
All right. Player of the game. I think it's hard to take anyone except for Jimmy G buckets, and the G stands for gets. I mean, again, this is just like the Lakers, right? They won game one. I mean, he won the game one for both playoff series, and that's what I think really puts you into an edge, right? Especially when you are when you don't have home court advantage. I think winning game one puts you into a very nice spot because game two, game two, the home team is coming with everything they've got, right?
But also additionally, I think the Celtics are really bad at home.
Yes.
They've done that for 2 years now.
Right.
So which might play in a factor for the Miami Heat to win games on the road.
And Celtics lost to a Joel Embiid-less 76ers, which at the end of the day, it did not matter having Joel Embiid on the floor or not throughout that series. But I mean, they did win game one. So I'm going with the big game from Jimmy G Buckets. I think the player of the game is going to be Jimmy G Buckets. I think the bust of the game, I have to think Jason Tatum. I think he's the second most annoying player in the league. Only at only Devin Booker takes the handle for that because he is the most annoying player I've seen. And he had one of the best performances in playoffs, and I cannot really slight him for that, even though I really want to. But after Devin Booker, Jason Tatum is definitely the most annoying player that I've seen. And even more than annoying, it's like, come on, man, are you really going to take that shot? It's really sometimes that. The surprising player of the game, there are three players that I really want to take. And I mean, you could argue for either one of them. It's Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus. I mean, either one of these players can go and get you 8 rebounds. Either one of these players can get you 20 points easily. I'm going to go with Caleb Martin because I mean, he's been playing that sixth man of the year for them in the playoffs because he's been giving them buckets. He's been giving them timely rebounds. He's just running around and doing things, except for what Russell Westbrook said about Pat Bev. He's actually running around and doing stuff. He's giving you 30 odd minutes, but he's playing his heart out, and that's what you love to see, right? This is a player who, with his brother Cody in Charlotte, was not getting PT. He comes to the Heat, and now he's a contributing player, one of the best players, one of the best bench players for the team that's
Good time to get
through the
out of
finals.
Charlotte,
I
man.
mean, exactly. Which just shows you like the kind of trust the Heat put in their players, right? They can take a team that has the fourth best lottery odds. They take a player who's been getting 0 minutes there, and then make him a contributing player on a deep playoff run. And that's just the kind of trust I have in the Miami Heat. I mean, they were the eighth seed this season with a lot of problems, but at the same point in time, I mean, when the playoff comes, I know that what I'm getting from Butler, I know what I'm getting from Bam, I know what I'm getting from these players, right? I do not know what I'm getting from Jason Tatum. Even though I love Jalen Brown, sometimes I don't know what I'm getting. I for I think Joe Mazzulla doesn't know what when he's getting from Marcus Smart at points of time. Once
I don't think Marcus Smart knows
Marcus
what
Smart
what
doesn't
kind
What
of
is
play
it?
he's getting.
Marcus Smart didn't know that three was going in, even though he was way off from the buzzer. He didn't know that three was going in. I mean, he for sure doesn't know what's happening half the time. And I'm predicting a game one Miami Heat win. I really want that bubble final run to happen. I want the 7 and 8 seed to go. I mean, I mean, you are free to fact check me, but I'm pretty sure this is the first time a seventh and eighth seed would probably meet up in a finals, right? And if it would be the
Yeah, that happens. Yeah, I'm not sure either, but I feel like this
yeah,
would be the first, right?
I mean, Twitter would be
It
going
must
crazy
be.
that day, but it would be amazing to see because after all, right, for the last 3 years, both these franchises have been. I mean, Lakers deservedly have had a lot of slack. Miami not so much, but the Lakers have had a lot of slack for the bubble run, A. Disney, Mickey, and everything. And Jimmy Butler, you obviously know that graphic with him in the game five when Danny Red
Oh yeah.
missed that open three, but I mean, I really want both these franchises to really get to the finals because they deserve this entire playoff run. So I'm going for game one, but I mean, we'll get into our series predictions in a later podcast, but game one for sure, I'm going Miami.
I mean, I am very, very different from what you guys have predicted. I am on a very
Oh,
different tangent. I'm still backing up Boston Celtics to win the championship. So I am going with
oh,
Jason Tatum to be
just
the.
to remind you all, he claims to be a big Laker fan, but
Oh, I
go on,
am
Sachin.
Lakers fan. I am a Lakers fan. I mean, although I want Lakers to win, but I'm still predicting as per the data, as per the stats, as per my gut feeling that Boston Celtics would probably take this one home. But moving on, the best player of the game, I think so. It will be Jason Tatum. I mean, that's what I am predicting. I don't think so. It will be a very big game from Jimmy Butler. No, because it will be. I mean, I agree that Boston has not been the best at home, but I think so. It would be Jason Tatum coming up and performing to the potential that he has because he has had a good game. He has had the rest that he wanted. Now he's coming with the mindset that he can score big in big games, and I think so that mindset would really take him to places. I think so. The biggest bust of the game for me would be Jimmy Butler. I mean, the kind of
Oof.
streakiness, the kind of clutch that we are expecting from him, he might not be able to show up in this particular game. And I'm not saying that he will be the worst of the series. He will be good in the series, but in this particular game, I'm just not expecting a lot of him. I don't think so. He'll come off, and that would probably eventually be a reason why Miami probably does not win this particular game. I think so. Boston will take this game. I forgot the surprising player. The surprising player in this particular series, I think so, would be Duncan Robinson because I am also predicting Jimmy Butler to not be as good. So he'll also spend some time off the court and he'll be on the bench. And if he's on the bench, I think so. Duncan Robinson has been showing that he has been efficient on the court with his contribution in the particular game. So that's why I think so he will be a surprising player of the game. And obviously, I'm expecting Boston to win this and win the series and then win the championship. Although I would love the Lakers to win, but he'll win the championship.
Um,
Boston for championship.
in no world does Duncan Robinson take Jimmy Butler minutes, especially in an
No,
Eastern Conference final games.
obviously. What I'm trying to
The,
say is that
the
while
Heat fans are going crazy because
no,
the
no, I'm
Heat
not saying
fans
that
hate
he'll
Duncan
replace them.
Robinson
I know,
because
I know.
like he's had a $90 million contract and he's basically been riding the bench and he's playing right now because Tyler Hero can't play. Let's not be coy here. Let's
Obviously,
not be stupid here. He's only out of the doghouse just because they kind of need him at the moment. And we all know he can be a liability on defense, but
But you know
I
what?
mean, sure,
Duncan
he can have
Robinson,
5 for 5 on
I
a
mean,
three and
if
like change
I
the
mean,
game.
if Duncan Robinson can play heavy minutes against the Bucks and the Heat win that series in 5, I mean, Eric Spoelstra can
That's a valid
Eric
point.
Spoelstra can do anything. I sometimes feel that he can make he could make Marcus
That's
Smart the MVP of the league.
That's a stretch, buddy. Nobody can do that.
I mean, even Marcus Smart,
Give him
if God wanted Marcus Smart to
even
be
Phil Jackson couldn't do that, buddy.